Hello, my name is Mahaleyah and welcome to All This Bliss. About 50 years ago, I'd say maybe more or less, there was a group of black men and women that got together, and this was in Chicago, Illinois, and they formed what you call a beta. This particular group of black men and women, their purpose was to reclaim their African, Hebrew, Israelite nationality or doctrine or roots that had gone back for generations and generations. So they came together to study, and they formed a very large and very rich and powerful organization. Now, there are very many different groups of Hebrew Israelites right now in America and even abroad. However, this was one of the very few groups, first, if I'm correct, to actually leave America. They first went to Liberia, where they stayed for several years, and then moved on to Israel. And there they have been for the last 40 years. Now, during that period of time, I would estimate that thousands upon thousands of members came and went. Here in Israel alone, now they have been here since at least 1970. I would say that at least a good estimation would be about 5,000 people, maybe more, who knows for sure. People have come and left, and understandably so. Now, amongst all of these people, many people lost their lives here for one reason or another. Many of these were people that came and they were sick, and subsequently they died here. Some people had accidents. Some babies were born and they may have been stillborn, or babies that were born and died shortly afterwards. But there was a huge number, hundreds of people that have died here in Israel, and we really don't know what happened to their remains. Now, we have a general idea of what took place with their remains. Most of the members know that there is an abandoned cemetery on the outskirts of Dimona, but very, very, very few people ever go there. Mostly the priests, when it comes to burying people, they take care of all of that type of thing. But there is a lot of speculation even about that. Speculations about other burial sites that we know nothing about. There's no accurate record on who has come, who has gone, who's alive and who's not alive. So all of this is shrouded in mystery. Today we're going to delve into this topic, and why it may not be a very pretty topic, but it needs to be unveiled. And the reason is because every individual that comes to this planet and has life, even a stillborn child, that birth is recorded on the record. There's no one born to the planet that doesn't deserve to have a record of his birth. There's no one born to the planet who doesn't deserve to have a decent burial. There's no one born to the planet that there's no record of how they died, and all of the. Why are these things such a mystery? Why don't the members even have any understanding of what is taking place? Why aren't questions being asked? This is what we're delving into today. Now, I myself, even after being here 30 years, didn't have all the answers to these questions. So my good friend Seporah, who you've seen in several of my other videos, she's been here a lot longer than me. She actually went through Liberia, and so she helped me to actually locate the old abandoned cemetery where so many of our people were laid to rest, or at least some of them. And I have to commend her for her bravery. We simply believe that we're on the side of God. This is why we come to you with these reports. When people say that we're impartial, and people say that, oh, well, you seem to be a little, one-sided here or there, I just have to state emphatically that I am on the side of God. And today I'm coming to you, and I'm coming to you on behalf of all of those men, women, and children and infants that lay underneath that rubble in that abandoned cemetery, lost and forgotten, even by their own friends and family. People whose family members came here and they just totally disappeared. So today we are honoring you in a very special way and letting you know that you will not be forgotten. Your name will go down in the book of life. So come with me on this journey and let it begin now. Thank you. Okay, Seporah and I are on the outskirts of Dimona right now. As you can see from looking around, that this is almost like the final outpost. And this border gate here is not really functioning. As you can see, nobody's really on duty. But the intention of placing all of this here was to stop people from bringing all of their trash and dumping it here on the very outskirts of the city. And that was years ago. But they continue to do so. And this is where our journey begins. Where are we heading? We're heading to the final outpost for many, many, many African Hebrew Israelites that came to Israel with a dream, and it ended in an old, abandoned cemetery. Follow us and we'll show you exactly what happened. What you're looking at is basically the outskirts of Dimona. Couldn't be more barren. Couldn't be more barren. As you can see, not too many cars pass by here. And the Arabs use this road though a bit more. Okay. What is this, Seporah?
This is Dimona's dump. This whole area here is not just the outskirts, it's Dimona's garbage dump. It's where you can bring your garbage. If you was getting your house reconstructed or whatever, you have to bring your garbage here. This gate was formed here so that you wouldn't just dump the garbage at the very beginning. You would take it all the way in where it's allowed to dump it. And in this area is where we have a cemetery where not all, but a lot of our people were buried here and are still buried here. And there's now garbage all on top of their graves. And we're going to talk about the reason why once we enter into the cemetery. How this was allowed to happen to our loved ones.
Seporah, I can't believe this. This is the first time I've been out here. I've heard about this place before, but never in my wildest imagination did I think that it would be this bad. Wow.
At the time that this cemetery was offered or designated for our loved ones, this was still the dump of Dimona. But the cemetery hadn't been totally abused at the time. The dump was made more like on the side. And this corner here was given to us once our bodies were dug up from the original cemetery and brought down here.
So what do you mean when they were dug up from the original cemetery?
It come a time when we heard that because we didn't become Jewish, some Jews decided that we couldn't be buried by the side of them, so they dug our bodies up. And I had an aunt, and there were several other ones at the time that had been buried that I know of. And the bodies were dug up and supposedly brought here for a proper burial.
Well, there's obviously
For what they
no
call,
proper burial
no proper
took place out here. And so this was how long ago?
This happened in the 70s. Well, this was in the 70s. In the early 70s, as early as 71 was when my aunt made transition, and she was reported buried out here. She was buried in the other cemetery, but after they were dug up, they were put here maybe 5-10 years later. And from that point on, there were others who were brought out here to be buried. But because of Bename's belief system was not to show any type of regard to the flesh, to the body, there was no love, there was no concern of the people. Most people don't have a clue where their loved ones are buried. No respect was paid at all to this cemetery, and no one asked where they were being buried. Then later, the cemetery became a dump for actually people to dump their garbage. And still bones is up under the garbage. The remains of the several ones are here. And it's not talked about, it's not discussed, it's not a war against it. No one is trying to put closure no one is doing anything toward getting these people the proper respect that they deserve.
This is sacred ground where we're standing right now. And I just want to say to all of those saints, because we called ourselves saints, all of those saints that lie here beneath this rubble, this trash, I want you to know that you are not forgotten. Even though some of your family and some of your friends, they're not really speaking up for you, I want you to know that you're not forgotten. I want the world to know what's happened here. This is sacrilege. Hundreds of saints that never received a proper burial or even a memorial, never even a mention after they were gone. I just want to say a quick prayer because I don't know how much more time I have left on this camera.
And still today, they have children that have grown up that were small when their mother was buried or their father was buried. And now that they are adults, they still haven't really learned about the proper way to acknowledge death or to reserve the remains, and so that you have a visiting place or place to go. And still today, they walk around with no knowledge of what has happened to them and to their loved ones and how they've been totally disrespected, and they still support and praises the one who caused all of this to happen, which has been me, the bus driver.
I want to say a quick prayer. Kuma Yahovah, ve'afutsu oyevecha, ve'anusu misanecha mipanecha. Kum Yahovah, ve'afutsu oyevecha, ve'anusu misanecha mipanecha. Kum Uma Yahuwah ver futsuyo verga ver nusu miseneka mi panecha. Hallelujah. 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 Selah. Seporah, we went down to the cemetery today. How did that make you feel? You have some relatives down there, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a sad situation. It's a situation that happened to us as a people because of the understanding that was being taught by the leader, Ben Ami, was that we do not deal with death in that manner as far as proper burials. We do not deal with that. And so people's bodies and remains were totally disrespected. And no one paid attention. And no one actually pursued and asked for why and went behind it. And today, it left us with many members of the community not knowing where their loved ones are. But we do know that several of us are buried down in the dump up under garbage. And it bothers me to know that I have an aunt and maybe a grandmother who's buried over there under that garbage. And I feel that something could be done about it. And I know that I do need help because I'm not able to dig up their remains or to find their remains and have a proper burial. But I do feel that it could be done with the right support, help from those who can make that happen. I do feel that we need to talk about this. I do feel that because they're there and I'm still alive, that this topic definitely needs to be discussed. People need to know that it is necessary to find out where your family members' remains are. I have a friend who lost 3 members of her family within the same year. Her baby, her father, and her sister. And she do not know where none of their remains are. They do not have any type of physical memorial to nothing. They don't know where they are. They don't know if they're down there, where. This situation has bothered me, and today we want to talk about it because there are also other members who I know that have people and they don't know where their remains are.
How many people do you think could possibly be down there?
If I sat and I tried to remember everyone who I knew that made transition and did not receive a proper burial, I know that I could name 50 people. That's including babies. Infants, a lot of infants died. But I don't know. Maybe more, but many. And until Yehudi, Nasi Shiliak's wife, made transition and had Israelis to make sure she had a proper burial, none of our community members had proper burials. But now, since the death of Bako Yehudi, there has been a difference made because they did have an area where they allowed people that were not Jews to be buried. But before then, our remains were just being given to the priesthood up under the instructions of Carter. We don't know where they are. The family don't know where they are.
Why do you think Benjamin Carter would do such a thing? Was he
Personally, I believe, I did not even think about it. I was one of the members. I just allowed it to happen. As an adult, as a child, I knew nothing about it. I just believed what he taught us, that he had our best interests. But now that I know better, I know that he did do a lot of these things because he did not want these people to be acknowledged. A lot of these people are being portrayed as still alive. You know, he deals with fraud a lot. And he had a lot of these people, passports and identities still being used today. So they didn't receive a death certificate. That I do know. He's a criminal. And that's what he does. And we don't know if he's continuing to do it because if he can get away with it today, he'll still do it.
has erased a lot of history and the ability to be able to go and visit the gravesite and sit and talk to our loved ones, to pay that respect. Because if there's no gravesite, I know people might think about their mother or their baby or their sister or their brother or their father. But if you have a gravesite, you can go to that gravesite, you can sit on the tombstone, and you can connect. That I've experienced, and it's a good feeling. It's not a sad or a negative thing to do. It's a very positive, uplifting. You can find, you can get closure. It's just a lot to it.
I noticed when we were down there that there was a brother that was running, and this is what they do for exercise. They run right past this graveyard that he without a doubt knows about, and as a matter of fact, one of his young children was buried in that graveyard, but he didn't stop. You know, it's like none of the area, even knowing that there are bodies there, none of that area has been cleared, none of it has been kept. It's like a ugly secret.
Yeah, and it's known and it's talked about here and there, but no one feels it's their responsibility to make a difference or to actually address it. So because we don't respect our own, we didn't respect ourselves, it's totally not accepted by me today anymore. I really feel that we as a community, as members, people that need to come together and make a difference and don't allow this to continue. The brother that went through there, I remember that he had a son who passed. I'm not saying he's down there, I don't know, but I know that son does not have did not receive a proper burial, and that his remains, his family does not know where they are. And if they know, and if they're down there, that how could he just feel that it's okay to leave it in that, to leave it in the dump and leave it like that, if he knows. So my voice today is speaking for those who's under that dump, that's in the dump, under the garbage. It's not impossible to correct that situation. It needs to be corrected. My prayer is that it does get corrected, and that I'm sure we won't find everybody's remains, but that something we put together where the family will know and have some type of respect now that they know better, for those of them that do know better, that would like to see a difference. We wanted to shine some light on that and talk about it.
Are you looking for someone?
I was looking for Nazi Chiliak.
This is how his gravesite has been left with no stone. He was one of the greatest men in our community. And because of our leadership,
I would like to visit the site of Aharon, the first member of the community that was actually killed in a terrorist attack. Okay, let's do that. This is Nasi Shalia. When I say Nasi,
Prince Chiliak. This is his stone here, and he was one of the greatest men in our community. And because Ben Ami doesn't have any respect for the remains of his people, this is what.
are you saying this is it?
This is it.
Oh my God.
This is it.
This is incredible. One of the pioneers of the community. There wouldn't even be a community had he not been a part of this. And this is how he's remembered. This is sacrilege.
He was the positive side of
weeds.
He was the positive side. He represented the positive side. In 2001. This is her.
Yehudit.
By Yisrael Yehudit. She's the founding mother that caused this for us to have proper burial. Without her efforts, we probably would still not have proper burial.
Thank you so much for everything that you did. Yehudit. What can we say? We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all of those that didn't make it here. Your efforts are going to make it possible for them to receive a proper burial one day.
I'd just like to make a few closing remarks. And first of all, I would just like to say to the leadership in Dimona, and particularly to Benamy Carter, shame on you for allowing such deplorable, inhuman conditions to have taken place with the remains of our loved ones. Shame on you to knowingly and purposely put the remains of our loved ones in a city dump and to have us believe that they were being disposed of properly. Shame on you. Now in the light of day, a lot of things become clear as to why we didn't have ceremonies at the gravesite, and a lot of other things become clear now that I have actually done the investigation, went down there and saw for myself that these bodies have been placed in an actual place where there's nothing but a refuge that's been thrown on top of them. Shame on you. This is something that you will go down in history as a demonic cult leader, and words cannot describe how disappointed I am. And this situation will be rectified with or without your help. I just want you to know that. For the new members in the community, this is directed to you. Please don't believe what you're hearing. Don't waste your time. You need to get your things and get out of Dimona as quickly as you can, because the way that things are multiplying and the lawlessness that is taking place in this community right now, if you have someplace, some family, somebody that you can get back to that can help you get started over again, you need to do that. You cannot believe what these people are saying. The leadership is corrupt. This is a cult. Make no mistake about it. It is a cult. The longer you stay there, the harder it will be for you to get out. So that's my advice to you. I have no words to describe the pain that I felt, the sorrow that I felt in witnessing firsthand those conditions down there. It's one thing to hear a rumor, but it's another thing to see with your own eyes. Now, after we left that area and after we prayed and we did everything that we needed to do there at the abandoned gravesite, we went to the public cemetery for the non-Jewish people that had died. And one thing I have to say, in my investigation, I noticed that there were approximately no more than 15 to 20 grave sites out there for members of our community. So that leaves a huge amount of deceased people, and we don't have any idea of where their remains are. If you have loved ones and you know that I have to get the actual date when they started to bury people in the public cemetery, when the Israelis started to do this. But if you know you had a loved one that died before that specific date, we need to be getting together and finding out how we can have their remains found. If there are some priests that know where these bodies are, we need to be locating them, and we need to be taking action, and we need to be taking strong action against this. If you care, then you're going to want to do something. If you don't care, if you don't have a heart, if you don't have a brain, there's nothing I can say to you. But for those that do care, that have loved ones, and you just never had the courage to speak up, or you didn't know what to do, now is the time. So for those of you that are in between, and your critical thinking skills and your reasoning and all of that has been compromised, I just want you to know that I don't know of any other culture where people do not honor their dead. I don't know of that, because when you don't honor your dead, you don't have a record of history. You don't have you can't develop, you can't have a culture, because you don't have anything to base it on. When you have parents and you allow your parents to be taken away and you don't even know where their graves are, you don't have any record of the accomplishments that they made in their lives. You know, you don't even talk about them. This is what's happening in our community. We're living, or you all are living in a mythical state of mind where you think, first of all, you're going to live forever, and you know that that's not happening. You're dying like flies. And then, on top of that, then they take the body. You don't even know what they're doing with it. So, and then after that, they might, you know, the immediate family member, they might say a little bit to the other immediate family member, but there's no public commemoration of that individual. There's no public announcement. There is no public support system in the community for people that are going through this process of grieving and mourning. And this process of grieving and mourning is critical for each and every individual. For you to be able to function in society in a healthy manner and to be well adjusted, you have to be able to go through this process. And it's different for everyone. But you can't deny a person their right to grieve and to mourn. That is something that is allotted to every individual on the face of this planet Earth, just like it is allotted and designed for every person that is born and every person that has died to have an actual record of that birth and of that death. This is your inalienable right. So know that. It is wrong for anybody to come to you to tell you that you can't take part in the preparation of the burial, that you can't see the body, that you can't touch the body, that you shouldn't go to the grave, that you shouldn't visit the grave afterwards. It is wrong to deny a person the closure that they so need in order to move on, to be happy and productive in life. You have to have closure. To not have closure is to cause grave psychological damage to an individual. You might think for a while that, no, well, you know, I wasn't affected, but you are affected, just like I am affected. Even after so many years of having left the community, the voices down there in that graveyard haunt me. They literally haunt me. And today I'm speaking to you because they deserve a decent burial. And you need to do this for your psyche, for your mind, for your heart, because you're walking around now and you have been desensitized. You believe that your family is your enemy. You believe that Ben-Ami is your savior. Everybody else on the planet Earth doesn't matter. Only worshiping this man matters to you. Nothing else. Not your children, not your husband, not your wife. Only worshiping Ben-Ami. And what does that mean? Basically, just give me all your money and you get absolutely nothing in return. But this isn't about him. This is about you, because this is your loved ones that are over there in that city dump. These are your loved ones. And I can't, you know, if you can't understand what I'm saying, then I don't know what else to say to you. But it's wrong. It's wrong, and there's nothing else that I can say to you, you know, to try to get you to understand that. Children, it's so important to talk to the children and educate the children in how death and life and death and the cycle of life and death and what's that all about. In our community, we don't talk about those that pass. We don't honor them. We don't celebrate their lives, and we don't go through that. You know, all of that mourning and grieving, all of that has been cut short by Ben-Ami and his beliefs, his personal beliefs. There's no place else on the planet that I know of where you're not allowed to do this. The children, they lose a parent. I had 2 nieces and a nephew that went through the same thing. They were literally orphaned, lost their mother and their father. Went to school one day on the school bus, came home, and both their parents were gone. Not in the same day, but they had lost their mother. Nobody sat down with them to talk to them. It was like one day they're here and the next day they're gone. Can you imagine what kind of psychological trauma that child goes through? And they don't have anybody that they can even talk to? Because everybody's walking around like, go do your homework. Like, where is my mother? Where is my father? But that is the state of the nation. The so-called nation that you're living in, that is the state of the nation. I'm not going to talk much longer because I don't want this video to be too long. But I'm just saying to you, this is wrong. This is wrong, people. And you've got to know it. So for those of you that are new, please hear my words. You need to get out of this. These leaders know the truth. And they're not going to say anything because they don't want to go down with Ben-Ami. They're supporting him because they're all going to go down because they're all a part of it. But for those of you that came and you haven't committed all these crimes and you came here on good faith and you still have an opportunity to get back to your families in America, that's what you need to do. So I just want to say to you, I love you. This is the end of my particular report. I wish you all well. And just think about what I said. Peace out.